So my first trip did not go as planned. I planned to leave Florida. I was going up to like Ocala, and I was getting a steering stabilizer put on my bus, and then from there up to Jacksonville, and then some quick stops up on the way to New York and Maine. But from like 30 miles after leaving where I am, my engine blew. So all my coolant dumped into my oil, and my engine got too hot and whatnot. So had to pull over and get towed back. I had a shop quote me for what it would cost, and it was just kind of absurd. I had another shop nearby quote me, and it was also pretty high, which I don't really get because I'm into some Facebook forums for this engine, and people are saying the labor to rebuild one of these shouldn't ever exceed like 30 hours, but if you know what you're doing. But every shop that quoted me was quoting me like 50 to 60 hours to do it. And they were quoting me really high for parts, but I didn't care with that because I was going to buy the parts myself anyways, because I can get them way cheaper than what they want to sell them to me for. So that didn't matter, but I wasn't willing to pay 50, 60 hours at a diesel mechanic rate, which is like 200 bucks an hour, sometimes more. So I decided I'm going to do it myself. Even though I know nothing about diesel mechanics, haven't done diesel mechanic work before. However, I figured it'll be like the rest of the bus where I didn't have experience doing any of this before, and I figured it out, so why can't I do this? But yeah, I mean, it's going to be basically a full teardown. Like, I got to rip this engine apart, replace all the gaskets, replace the cylinder sleeves. That's most likely what happened, is a cylinder sleeve gasket went out. Which on these engines, it seems like it can happen for a few different reasons. One, overheating your engine caused the gaskets to fail, and then two would be the gaskets are just old. It's a 20-year-old bus, and it also was a kind of like a part-time bus and an activity bus for a while. And then someone else had it up in Michigan, and it just sat for a while, which you also want to run these buses a good amount because the gasket's not running. And getting up to temperature and warm and whatnot, it will cause them to fail as well, just kind of get old and brittle. So, you know, it was a part-time bus, and then someone had it up in Michigan for a year and it just sat, and then I've had it here for basically a year and a half and only ran it really short distances, not getting it up to temp much in a while, and then probably just when I finally pushed it, you know, it's weighed down now, 30 miles. It just gave out. So yeah, gonna have to do that. I basically gotta take everything off, take the injectors out, cylinder head out, get the injectors and cylinder head tested for, well, injectors tested for if they're just still good, cylinder head tested for leaks, and then replace everything else. I started draining the oil, but I filled a full 5-gallon bucket, and I need another 5-gallon bucket, and I don't have one right now. So the oil isn't completely drained yet, but currently I just need to start taking this apart and yeah, just get access to everything, which is going to be the real pain. Luckily, I found someone that was able to send me over the engine manual in PDF form, and I just printed it out because normally the service manual to get a printed version of it is like $400 something, and I wasn't having any luck finding a PDF format online. So that guy had a shop and sent it over to me, which was extremely helpful. But yeah, I'm just gonna get into taking this apart. So I'm gonna start with removing the intercooler tubing, or the turbo piping, which a real pain because I had a turbo leak in one of these old gaskets and I replaced them recently, and I took these on and off so many times to get them to seal properly, and here I am taking it apart again after I got it to all work well. Will I be able to use? Yeah, it's nice. I can use my big tool for this. Just make it quicker. All right, so I got the ECU disconnected from the bracket. It's just 4 bolts. What I need to do now, though, is because to get enough room for it to slide away, I need to get these wires that's connected to loosened a bit, which gotta just figure out where they're connected and disconnect them if I can. If not, then I'll just have to disconnect these here. I preferably didn't want to. 2 reasons. 1, I don't have the little square wrench thing. And then 2, people say those are finicky, and disconnecting and reconnecting them is always a cause for concern with them. It's going to work or not. So I prefer to not touch those and see if I can disconnect stuff here instead. So we will see. All right, like 30 minutes later, I finally got this bolt out. It's like way tucked underneath. It's a bolt that holds on the mounting bracket for the ECU. Wait. Yeah, whatever.
Who cares, brother? Who cares?
Whatever engineer decided that was the best place for it to secure that should be fired, because that was absurd. I was like, see, where's my contraption? Look at this thing to get access to that. That is like so not what you're supposed to do, have all those joints going, but like I didn't have another option. But now, theoretically, this bracket should just lift off. There is a lot of stuff in the way, but I say theoretically, but nothing is ever as easy as you want it to be. Okay. There it is. The bolt came down to like here, and man, that was something to get that off. Holy cow. Now I did just decide to take the ICP sensor off before I take all the cover off, and some oil will drain out from where that was. That is like the oil rail, high pressure oil rail, I believe. Yes. And I'm going to drain it out before I start taking like the cylinder head off and all that, just to let the oil drain out. It also allows me to clean this a bit, just because it did get coolant on it, so I think it would be best to just clean this off a bit. This is a actual sensor, one of the sensors I've actually replaced since having the bus. My ICP sensor went bad, and my bus would run fine for a little bit, and then it would just like bog down and wouldn't go above 30 miles an hour. We call it limp mode. But yeah, that's what it was doing. All right, I got some bags here to label. All right, I think I got everything to take the engine cover off. I'm just moving some stuff out of the way because I need a place to put it once it's off. And I think I'm gonna put a blanket down to just keep it somewhat clean, because I have a feeling there's gonna be lots of stuff pouring off of it. Oil coolant mixture coming off of it. I got all the bolts off along the edges here. This bolt here, I'm gonna need to replace. Took it off the same way as all the ones with the impact, but it just like stripped. So I had to take a smaller socket and pounded it on, and then was able to get it off that way. But thankfully, then disconnected the breather tube here. I just have it dangling right now. I didn't disconnect the mount on the lower end. I think it's fine. I may need to disconnect it when I do the other one, but it's wet outside right now. So I'm gonna just try and pick this up. Hopefully it picks up with relative ease, and I'll set it behind on this thing. I don't know what this is made out of, if it's aluminum or what. I'm gonna need to move that. I'm gonna go back under and disconnect that. That's just too tight. All right, disconnected that. Unfortunately, again, it's wet outside. I had to lay on this like wet, sandy mess to get that off. Just gonna lay that there. Okay. Oh yeah, that is an absolute mess. Look at that. That's supposed to be oil. And it's a gunky coolant oil mixture going on there. This is not going to be fun to clean, to say the least. So a thing I noticed, which someone else, I think, Wide Awake Travels, he did this, he replaced his injectors. I just have wires here going across each of the injectors, and those were prone to failure. So if I can get a new injector harness for a reasonable price, I think I will. The new one, it's a metal rail going across. It's supposedly way safer. Things it's not as prone to failure. This is gonna be awful to clean. Look at that. But yeah, so I think I'm gonna start with just taking the injectors out, and I think I'll have time today to run the injectors down to the shop where I'm gonna have them get tested. Because new injectors are around, I mean, if you go OEM, they're like 600 to 800. Aftermarket new, they're 400 to 500, or you can get remanufactured ones for 200 to 300. If these, I can get these tested for about 35 a piece, so I'm gonna do that rather than just replacing them. Odds are some will need to be replaced because they've been contaminated with coolant, but we'll see. But they're pretty simple to take out. Got these little clips for the wires here. Just pops down, pulls out each one. So I'm going to do that with all of them. Pops down, pulls out. And then, not sure how these plastic pieces connect on the top of each one, but for starters, I'm just going to pull these all out. And then I'll probably end up buying a new harness for these, but I'll see. I haven't actually had an issue with this harness, so this should just come out now. Yep, okay, so there's the injection harness. It needs a cleaning itself. Now the injectors, I believe I just take out this bolt here on the right side, and then that bracket pushes. So I take out the right bracket, and then this under metal piece pushes to the left, and then it can pop out. I don't think I have to take, I take both bolts, oh, I take both bolts out with that. Trying to find what size I need for that. Comes off like that. And then there's this big old bracket that pushes forward, because there's a bolt on the left side here that sits under and clips. But if you push this forward, then that bolt is no longer holding this down. What I do now is I just take a big old screwdriver or something, and something that you can get a lot of leverage on, because these are in there. Man, that's crazy. Look at that. That is a massive injector. Oh, you look at that. That injector O-ring right there is bad. That needs to be fixed. Alright, so it is the next day. I am removing the exhaust manifold and turbo now. I decided to try and just remove them both together versus disconnecting the turbo from the exhaust manifold. Basically, all I did so far was I removed the oil intake tube for the turbo and disconnected the oil return from the turbo. I removed every bolt on the exhaust manifold except this one so far. And then I'm using this ratchet strap to kind of relieve it so it just doesn't go crashing when I take that bolt off. I'm not sure how heavy it is, but I just hooked it up to my hammock strap up at the top. I doubt that's more than 100 pounds, so this will easily be able to handle that. But yeah, I'm going to just undo that last bolt and take that out. Disintegrating as I'm trying to move it. The exhaust manifold gasket right here, I will be replacing this. Basically every gasket there is, I will be replacing. Tighten this up a bit. Okay, there she is. Don't put that on anything fragile. Set that here. And get this strap off. And now, so I'm going to take this outside and put it on the rack for now. I will be back. Now I'm going to take off all the cylinder head bolts. There's 20 of these short bolts going around everywhere to take off. And then there's these, I guess, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 long bolts here. One thing to know is the service manual says you want to loosen these nuts 2 full turns. Just to, I guess, relieve pressure on the whole system when you take these long bolts out. So I will loosen all those 2 full turns and then take all these bolts out. And I do know with these bolts, you're not supposed to reuse them, so now, theoretically, I don't actually need to keep those bolts because I'm replacing them, but you just never know. All right, so I forgot to record, but my dad came over and helped me lift the cylinder head out. I looked online briefly, like how much it weighed, and I saw someone say 100 pounds. I didn't really look past that, and so I was like, oh, I can do that myself easily. But I lifted a piece of it, quickly saw that it was way more than 100 pounds, and then I went and looked at a couple other people, and I saw like 2 or 3 other people say it's like 250 pounds. I think it's more than that personally, but my dad was able to help me get this out and got it in the car, and then brought it over to, will be bringing it over to a shop to pressure test it, check for any cracks and warpage of it. So, but I dropped the oil pan on the bottom as well, and then I undid 2 cylinders, pistons at the bottom. So here's one of them. You can see this one is badly damaged. There's scoring there, and if you see this, like that O-ring is like, this got like melted here. It was so badly damaged. I'm not really sure what happened to this one, but I'm guessing this is going to be the cause of my leak. That will be my guess. And feeling the liners in here, this one is the one that is the most damaged feeling. All the other ones feel pretty smooth. This one here, there's a little bit of scoring, so I have a feeling this one's probably damaged too. I'll be taking them all out. I haven't taken the bolts out on the bottom for all of them yet. I did take it out for this one, but I'm having a hard time actually popping that one out. So I'm going to see what's up with that. But I'm going to go under and try and unbolt all of these. The issue is I don't have access to all the bolts, just the way the engine is rotated currently. All right, I'm back for the next weekend to get these all out. Let's try and lift this out. Is that one? forgot to get the oil out of it. This one seems to be in pretty good condition. I don't see any damage on the O-rings on this one. So that's what it's supposed to look like. And then I think I can get this far one out without turning the engine as well. We will see. So here's one of the sleeves I just got out. See the ring gasket there? It's completely deteriorated. So that was definitely leaking there. That's for sure. Alright, so I haven't recorded in a while just because it's a pain to try and record and do this at the same time. But I got the front cover off. There's basically just a bunch of bolts going around the outside of the front cover that you gotta take off. You gotta take off the alternator and alternator bracket. And then you have to remove the engine mount here up front, or engine support, and support the engine up front. So I got 2 jack stands underneath here for that. But yeah, I got the front cover off. I thought I was missing a bolt because it was just really hard to come off, and so I left it for a night, and then I ended up coming back later. I mean this morning really, and after doing more research I figured out I wasn't missing a bolt, so I just started prying a bit more and it came off. I'm guessing the gaskets were just really stuck on, sealed on. I'm not seeing much rust. There's a little bit of corrosion, or maybe that's just pieces of the gasket there that I'll get cleaned up. But before I take it apart, pull any gears out, I wanted to make sure it's timed correctly. And so I just rotated this crank here probably like 5 times until all these dots lined up on all the gears. There's a dot here as well on this gear, lines up there, and dot here lines up. That way when I put it back together, I just know really how to put it back. Make sure it's put back the right way in time. So that way I don't have any issues. So I am going to go ahead and start removing some of these gears. That one looks like it's going to be a pain. I'm pretty sure that one's torqued down to like 200 something pounds. This one I need to get some Allen wrenches, remove these to get this front cover off, and then I can get access to the gear there. I have a gear puller which I'll probably have to use on these. I need to look at what pound that is so I know what to expect with that one. That one's going to be a pain, I know that. But then yeah, after those, it'll probably be like the last one where it's incredibly hard to take off. I'm hoping this air compressor here, and there's a high pressure oil pump behind, isn't bolted anywhere. The high pressure oil pump was bolted here, and then I believe someone said it was bolted down here as well. So I took both those bolts out. And so yeah, we're gonna see. I'm gonna take these apart, and then I'm gonna check the bearings, just make sure there's no play in them. And then once that's all out, and this is out, I'll probably pull the camshaft out just to check it for wear. But after that, really the whole point of pulling all these out was just to replace the seals. I figured since I'm doing a full rebuild, why not just replace all the seals? There are some seals, like for this pickup tube here. Not sure where I'm going to find that seal, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm going to start taking these off now. Since the last video, I haven't really done much more. I want to get this off today, and probably the oil cooler off. We'll see. Everything goes slower than I want, but we'll see. Alright, so the teardown is now complete. So I'm going to basically clean up a bit, and then it's time for me to start putting everything back together. And so start on that process. And I didn't record taking the inner front cover off, the part that connects straight to the block. But yeah, basically those came off at, the one bolt was about 470 pounds is what's torqued to, and the other one's like 250. So I got those off, then the cover came off. Just pulled the camshaft out. And now I'm just gonna start putting those back on, and basically do everything in reverse order and see how it goes.